Hello and welcome into this week's edition of The Pole Position right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. On today's pole position, we've got a few races to talk about. We've got 3 races from Talladega this weekend, ARCA, Xfinity, and Cup. F1 was in Azerbaijan. NHRA had the 4 wide nationals at Charlotte. World of Outlaws had 2 races. One got rained out on Saturday. There were supposed to be 3, so they ended up having 2 races this weekend. And then Formula E was in Paris this weekend. So we've got a few things to talk about. Let's go ahead and get right into it. We'll start off with the stock car stuff, as that stuff has already been covered this weekend, so we'll get it out of the way. If you missed any of the rewind shows from this weekend, we go a lot more in-depth on those than we do here on pole position. They are linked down below in the description. We have one for the ARCA race, the Xfinity race, and the Cup race. So we'll start off with the ARCA races. That was the first race of the weekend on Friday from Talladega. It was a General Tire 276 laps around the Talladega Super Speedway. And Todd Gilliland came out on top at the end of this one, leading 34 laps on his way to the victory. 1 lap shy of the most laps led. That was by Sean Corr, who led 35 laps early in the race. Riley Herbst came home a strong second. Couldn't really do anything at the end to get a run on Gilliland, and just kind of settled for second there. Couldn't really get a push from anybody behind him. Brandon Lynn came home in the 3rd position to put up the best outing by a Venturini Motorsports car in this race. Ty Majeski came home in 4th in his run in that 22 car for Chad Bryant Racing. And Michael Self put a 2nd Venturini Motorsports car in the top 5 in 5th. The rest of your top 10 were Gus Dean, Travis Braden, Andy Seiss, Grant Quinlan, and Joe Graff Jr. Second race of the weekend from Talladega was the Money Lion 300 on Saturday for the NASCAR Xfinity Series, 113 laps around the Talladega Super Speedway. Tyler Reddick came out on top after this one, even with all the damage he had on the car. Came home with the victory in this one. Had to hold off a very hard-charging Greg Galding at the end of the race in his Bobby Daughter-owned SS Greenlight Racing Chevy. A fantastic run out of Greg Galding. He had me thinking he was going to win that race going down the backstretch and just never could quite get enough of a run to get to the lead. Christopher Bell came home in 3rd, Chase Briscoe 4th, and Austin Cindric rounded out the top 5. Rest of your top 10 were John Hunter Nemechek, Justin Haley, and good runs for Josh Williams, Landon Castle, and Chris Cockrum. Final race of the weekend from Talladega was on Sunday for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. It was the Geico 500, 188 laps around the Talladega Super Speedway. Chase Elliott came home with career win number 4 in the Cup Series, holding off his teammate Alex Bowman. Under caution, they threw the caution into 3 on the final lap as Kyle Larson was kind of flipping down the backstretch. So with the concern for Kyle Larson's safety, it was in the best interest of everyone to call the caution going into 3 instead of letting them race back to the line. Ryan Preece came home with a strong 3rd place finish for JTG Doherty Racing. Joey Logano in 4th, and Daniel Hemrick rounded out the top 5 to put 2 rookies in the top 5. Rest of your top 10 were Kurt Busch, Ryan Newman, a great run for Brendan Gaughan in 8th, Eric Almirola in 9th, and Kyle Busch rounded out the top 10. Alright, so that does it for the stock car stuff. Like I said, if you want a more in-depth recap, you want to go to the rewind shows, they are linked down below in the description. Formula 1 up next as we transition into the open wheel stuff from the weekend. It was the SOCAR Azerbaijan Grand Prix. 51 laps, 306.2 kilometers around the 6-kilometer street course, the Baku City Circuit in Baku, Azerbaijan. Valtteri Bottas comes away with season win number 2, tying his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Mercedes has now swept the first 4 races of the season, Lewis Hamilton picking up 2 wins, and Bottas now picking up 2 wins on the season. Hamilton still came home with a 2nd place finish, with Sebastian Vettel rounding out the podium. Also in the top 5 were Max Verstappen in 4th and Charles Leclerc in 5th. Rest of your top 10 receiving points from this one: Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, Lance Stroll, and Kimi Räikkönen. Alright, so the other open wheel race of the weekend from the series that we cover was the Formula E Paris E-Prix, taking place, of course, in Paris. Robin Freins came home with the victory in his Envision Virgin Racing car. Andre Latier came home in second, and rounding out the podium was Daniel Abt. And then you can see the rest of the top 10 here. Everyone else receiving points in this one. DNFing in this race were Alex Lynn, Eduardo Mortara, Stoffel Van Dorn, Alexander Sims, and Tom Dillman. On to the straight line stuff for the weekend. NHRA was in action for the NGK Sparkplugs NHRA 4-wide Nationals from the ZMAX Dragway in Charlotte. Steve Torrence came home with the top fuel win. Funny car winner would be Sean Langdon, and your super stock winner was Monty Bogan. Rest of your winners are listed here if you would like to see any of them, if there's a different class that you are interested in. And finally, on to the dirt side of things from the weekend. World of Outlaws had 3 races scheduled for this weekend. First up on Friday was the Battle at the Lake Ozark Speedway in Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. Brad Sweet claimed his 36th career World of Outlaws victory at Lake Ozark Speedway. He led the first 30 laps of the 40-lap feature until a red flag came out. On the restart, Sweet pulled away, but David Gravel passed him for the lead on the next lap. Sweet did not give up, though. A few laps later, he made his way back by Gravel. Sweet almost lost the lead again on the final lap with a run off turn 4 blocked by a lapped car. He had a strong enough run, though, to still beat Gravel and third place Donnie Schatz to the finish. On Saturday, World of Outlaws was supposed to be in action for the Spring Classic at Federated Auto Parts Raceway at I-55 in Peevely, Missouri. That got rained out and canceled, though. And then Sunday, Jacksonville Speedway in Jacksonville, Illinois. It was shaping up to be a great night. They had a new track record. There were wrecks in qualifying, hard racing, and the heat races. And then it rained again. So with the last chance showdown and the feature still to go, the rest of the night got scrubbed. Still looking, World of Outlaws is still looking for a makeup date for this race. Has not been determined yet, but that race did not get completed. They did not get all the way to the feature, so we have nothing for that one either. But that'll do it for pole position this week. Had a good amount of stuff happening this week. We got a good amount of stuff happening next week as well. World of Outlaws, of course, in action. ARCA's in Nashville. NASCAR's at Dover. I believe that's a triple header. I think Xfinity and Trucks are both there. So we've got a few things to talk about next week on pole position as well. Diecast review, of course, coming up on Wednesday. This week it will be Brad Keselowski's playoff Las Vegas win from 2018. So you want to be able to check that out. It is a very cool looking car. And then, of course, we will be in Nashville this weekend. I actually have a special announcement of my own that I will be making here later in the week in regards to the Nashville race. So not necessarily R&N related, but something I personally will be doing at Nashville. So not really sure if I'm going to talk about that in its own video, or if we'll talk about that on Diecast Review, or how exactly that's going to work. But yeah, cool things happening this weekend at Nashville. But if you haven't done it already, you need to go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. While you're down there, why don't you hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do. So with that, this has been the pole position, where you always start on the front row. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.